business that feels simpler, smarter, and a whole lot less stressful. Scan the QR code and get access to your branded simplified CRM today. Are you making good money, but still wondering where it all goes? Imagine feeling completely confident about your business finances. Jillian at JMV Financial Services provides more than just numbers. She empowers entrepreneurs to simplify their numbers, strengthen cash flow, increase profitability, and create a financial plan that supports the business and the life they've worked so hard to build. No more financial overwhelm, no more second guessing, just clarity, confidence, and a roadmap for lasting success. Ready to take control of your financial future? Scan the QR code and book your strategy call with Jillian today. You're paying for Go High Level every month. You log in, you poke around, you feel a little overwhelmed, and you log back out. The leads pile up, the follow-ups don't happen, and your CRM just sits there, collecting digital dust. That's exactly why the 14-day Simplified GHL Challenge was built. One action inside your GHL back office every day for 14 days. By the end, you'll know your system. You'll trust your system. Simplify, clean up, automate, build workflows that work when you aren't. Delegate, step into CEO mode. The 14-day Simplified GHL Challenge begins the third Monday of every month. Scan the code to reserve your spot.
You're showing up. You're posting. You're speaking. You're doing everything they told you would grow your business. So why is it not converting? Because visibility is only half the equation. Getting attention is easy. Turning that attention into clients takes strategy. VoiceLab was built to solve that. This is where front-end visibility meets back-end conversion. You learn how to get on stages, create your own platforms, and use podcasts, summits, and workshops to grow your audience and generate real leads. Then you learn what most people never build. A system that captures those leads, follows up, nurtures relationships, and turns interest into revenue. Email and newsletter strategy that actually gets responses. Workflows, not just more noise. Real connection that leads to real business. Inside VoiceLab, you are not guessing. You're learning the how. You're implementing in real time. You're building a business that works even when you are not constantly chasing attention. Because here's the truth. If you don't have visibility, no one knows you exist. If you don't have systems, nothing converts. VoiceLab gives you both, so you can stop performing for attention and start building momentum that pays you back. If you are ready to grow your authority, expand your reach, and finally turn visibility into income, join the VoiceLab. Scan the QR code, join VoiceLab Group on the school platform, and build the business that actually works.
Welcome to a world of unforgettable experiences and immersive marketing. Transform your events into extraordinary moments that captivate your audience. Whether it's corporate gatherings, product launches, or community celebrations, our immersive marketing solutions elevate your events to new heights. Immerse your attendees in a world of audiobooks and podcasts tailored to your brand. Engage their senses and leave a lasting impression. Explore the power of storytelling with our curated podcast content. From insightful discussions to entertaining narratives, we've got the perfect audio experience for your event. Ready to make your next event unforgettable? Scan the QR code now and book a complimentary immersive marketing call with our experts. Let's create memories together.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? All right. Zoom is playing games and things are flying around. How are you? It is a great and wonderful Tuesday today. Let me move my screens around. I've got a fantastic panel of guests coming up in just one moment. I want to talk a little bit of the housekeeping here and what's going on in this wonderful world of events. And those of you who don't know me, I am Nicole Borghi. I'm your hostess with the mostest. And if you're getting paid, if you're not getting speaking events, if you're not getting out there, and you are getting a few clients, right? You're building a little bit of your revenue, but you kind of feel that that visibility isn't enough. Maybe you're getting on podcasts, but you're not leveraging the audience of the host or the speaking events are you reaching out? And the best thing for you to do is to establish that expertise on stages through your own stages like workshops and summits or even podcasts. This is what I do. I'm a virtual event host. That's basically what I do. I started in virtual reality with my first stage in virtual reality on the spatial platform with confronting domestic violence. And we brought some fantastic speakers to the stage, but I realized that utilizing your voice was not only great, it's kind of a great therapy. It's great to reach out to the community, tell people where you want them to go, what you want them to do, how are you driving traffic or change. So it could be great for positive outcome. You could use a stage for a cause marketing and support your favorite group or movement or anything that you want to do. But the greatest thing about it is you're leveraging your clients. You're bringing people to you. You're moving the SEO. You're moving now the AEO thanks to AI. You want to get out there. You want to get seen and heard. And this is you. You are not just establishing yourself as an expert because you've probably been out there for a few years now, or maybe you're escaping corporate America. You're coming now into the virtual space. It's a little bit of a pivot. And once you see how easy it is to get out there, get on the mic and have somebody like myself, like doing the pulling the switches and the toggles, right? And doing all the tech behind the scenes so you can stand out and shine. It's a lot easier to show up. And that's why a lot of people don't hold their events, is because they think in this DIY era, they want to do it themselves. It's too much, it's too complicated, and you feel like you're procrastinating, but instead you're too busy being busy and you're not getting on the mic. So that's what I do. I love doing this. We'll get to the guests. We're today, folks, this is Plot Twist, a Gathering. We're changing up. This is a new summit. Or excuse me, it started with a summit, and what a great fantastic way to meet authors and seeing how they can share their book, meeting publishers and people who write and are writing about their journey, writing about the discovery. This is how it started. We want to bring good books back into play. With yes, you got to be edited. You not everybody's great. Some people are just great on the stage, but it's hard to convert it into words on a book. And sometimes it's hard to take those wonderful, wise words that you've crafted into your book and move them onto the stage. So with this combination, you're marketing, you're getting out there. And what a great way to learn about the author and the author's journey by coming on the stage. So that's what this is all about. It is all about the plot twist in life, the plot twist that happened here in your book. What was the journey behind that? Because you find it's discovery, you find great information, you're doing research, and it's just that wow, that dynamic. Maybe you want to write a second novel already. So we're going to get into my guests in just a second, but I do want to let you know because there's an event happening today and one happening tomorrow. So I want to share that. I'll share all the links in the comments below while my wonderful speakers are coming onto the stage. But next today, we have a fabulous Summer Dia Silva from Fab Collabs, a great person that comes on the stage. She's so knowledgeable and she's so fun. She is the GSD Get Shit Done coach. I love this. And she's going to share how to 10x your LinkedIn. She does posting parties, but the best thing, and she's a networker. She holds networking events. She's a connection person, but she understands how to leverage LinkedIn, get that visibility, reach out to other professionals in your field and those people that will possibly become your clients, but how to utilize the system and how to engage is a different way than just talking one-to-one. And that is today at 1 o'clock Eastern. Summer will be here. Also, and one of my great guests here today is Bruce, and he has got a workshop. We'll get some more details from that. It is through his series, The Complete Man Brotherhood, and I have him talk about that. I'll put the link in there. That's happening tomorrow. Some great information coming in here. We'll talk about it. But let's get to it. I want to bring my guest on the show and talk about their books. I'm so interested in what is going on. So let me bring up here, Scott, if you're going to just share with everybody who you are and the book you wrote.
Sure. My name is Scott Ricefield, and I wrote a book that started as a COVID project because the company I had just started was not COVID resilient, about Greta Garbo, who was my great aunt. And so it's a biography, but it's also a women's history story because Greta Garbo has sort of a forgotten impact on the way women sort of became more modern. And she was the exemplar of the modern woman in the late 20s and 30s. Um, so it turns out it was a more fascinating story than I thought because I learned a lot along the way. And I look forward to talking more.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to bring up Bruce. Bruce, if you can unmute that mic and come on in here. Tell everybody a little bit about you, and what you're doing in life, and how you got to this spot. Because we have been working together, and I've learned so many interesting things from you about building relationships and your upcoming workshop. But the whole writing thing, I think, is the full force coming in. Can you unmute, Bruce? Let me see if I can unmute you. All right. Well, you're doing that. You got it. Fantastic. Go ahead.
Okay, so again, I'm Bruce Graham, and I pivoted from a 40-plus year career as a licensed private detective. Um, at this time I started my agency, I also had earned a master's in social work. And when I came out of my master's program, it was a question of, do I want to do counseling or do I want to do investigations? And frankly, I met my wife, we wanted to have a family, and I thought the investigation business was burgeoning, was growing. And I was like, I'm going to put the counseling aside, but once you're a therapist, you're a therapist. So I've used my counseling skills in my work as an investigator. I've had the opportunity to interrupt a couple of requests for marital surveillance, turn them into counseling sessions. One family is together 17 years still, one is 20 years together. As I retired from investigations, I said, this is what I want to do. And I've done a lot of coaching in transformational programs. I love keeping people happy and together so that the families are working, the kids are taken care of, and mom and dad have a trusted partner for the rest of their lives.
What a concept, right? Bringing this back into the world and sharing it with other people. And if you want to start a movement, if you want to get out there in the world and you want to make change happen, you've got to talk about it. You've got to share your message, but in a loving manner that people understand. We all talk about languages. Everybody speaks different languages, but how do we connect with each other? So very interested in what that is going on. And then you know what, fantastic. We're going to learn more about Scott and Greta Garbo. I love watching her, just a beautiful woman and what she has done. So we're going to learn more about how that modern woman came along. It has changed our relationships. And I think sometimes we swing a little bit far one way, but coming back to the person that was out there and what she could use as an actress to make that movement by getting on stage because people knew her. And that's what we're doing today with these podcasts. Let me bring up Alan. Alan, if you would go ahead, and we've met and had a wonderful conversation. I love what you're doing here and what you're sharing, and your mission and your purpose getting out there. But would you share for the audience who you are?
Yes, thank you. Well, my name is Alan Simberg, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed chemical dependency counselor. I also have certification in applied clinical nutrition, and I have 54 years of professional experience. And I work with couples, individuals, so obviously relationships. I also help people who have challenges with depression or anxiety. And I also work with people who are recovering from addiction. And I do have a self-published book that gives strategies on how to manage the different life areas that people's addiction has affected. That's pretty much a capsulated version of me.
What What a wonderful thing you do. And gentlemen, it's great having this. And I didn't plan this to be the all guy cast, but it's not bad sometimes to be the only girl in the room and meet wonderful people who are talking about their life and the journey and picking their brain. This is a great way to do it, is to have a podcast and to be the fly on the wall. But we'll get to our questions here because I want to learn a little bit more about, how you got into the book and how you got into this journey and sharing it. So the first question, gentlemen, and we're just going to go around and have you answer that while I share all this wonderful information that you have shared with me into the chat with everybody. But the first question is, every book starts with just that whisper, right? That little nudge. Maybe it's the angel or the devil playing against you. You got to tell your story. No, you don't. Nobody really wants to hear it. But when that kind of starts to get seeded into your brain before it becomes a story, what was the whisper that wouldn't leave you alone? That idea, that moment or message that you said, gosh, I have to write this. And I actually have to write this now, where you get to the point where you're like, yep, that's me doing it. So Scott, sir, what was that little whisper for you?
Well, it was COVID. My book was a COVID project initially. I I had a career in business. I had done an essay for a museum exhibit about Garbo's photos. Um, and I had learned enough to know that none of the biographies that were there were quite right. But my thought was, well, it would take so much work to do it. And COVID arrived. I had just started a new business, and COVID killed it. And at the time, I had no idea how long COVID was going to run. And I just looked at the Garbo project in my mind and said, well, now you are the person who has the time now. So are you going to do this? And that's why I started. Um, and I'm glad I did. It was more fun than I had expected and quite the journey.
I love that, when you're finding out that this is better than you thought it was. It's not just this one moment right now that, hey, this sounds like a good idea. And then you have a relationship with a person that you wrote about, like a more intimate, familiar relationship where you're sharing, gosh, I know this person and I can share all about how wonderful they are. So Alan, come up here and would you share for you, what was that whisper that you knew that you had to write a book and share your information with the world?
Yes, well, the whisper for me was after working with people and helping people recover from addiction, the one thing that stood out for me was that the major emphasis that treatment and aftercare treatment usually provides is abstinence. And what was missing was how people can repair their past and rebuild their future. And that was the whisper. This is needed in the addiction treatment field. And that's what prompted me to write the book.
Fantastic. And the book is just the way to bare your soul or your experience to people to say, hey, let's connect and you can learn more about me. So many people write the book and they finally get to the book and they stick it on the shelf and it never gets to speak, right? You never get that page turner. People don't get into that moment of, I want to learn more, I want to read more. And I think for me, and I've had this discussion with many people, that people don't really bare their soul and sometimes in the book. And this started to happen before AI. I would read other people's books. They would share with me. I got in an anthology. I had something I want to read. And the story did not come off the page. And unfortunately, the editors didn't edit. They didn't help them find the story. Maybe you don't have a ghostwriter, but it has to make sense to the reader, to somebody you've never met. You're not even there pitching in a networking event, so they don't get to ask you questions. If you want them to reach out to you, you can't put a bunch of word salad out there and then AI's made it worse because it seems so barren, so vanilla, so naked. But you want to get into that moment of why you're writing this, the importance, and you can change someone's mind through a great story. And that happened with Chicken Soup for the Soul. I love that. Uh, the anthology in the sense that it was sharing with people, and there are some great short stories, but it expanded into something, and now we can kind of push that pendulum back where we can bring those fantastic people back into there and really change lives, and just somebody can actually clutch into that story, or even hear the audio version of the book. So Bruce, for you, what was that change, that little whisper that made you bring this up into a book and put it on the page and make it come out to printed?
Yeah, for me, it was the opportunity to actually explain the transition or the pivot from investigation to coach. I started to do that, and I went to a networking group that I'd been participating in for about 20 years, but I hadn't been there for a while. And I announced my new business as a coach, and they're like, "Well, who are you certified by?" And I said, "I have a master's in counseling. I've done counseling." And I said, "But who are you certified?" And I was in the process of getting certification. I was like, somehow I have to explain the transition. And I was invited to participate in an anthology. It's called Voices of Hope. And I thought, I have these great experiences where I've worked with couples in ostensibly the worst situation in the world, where the guy is having an affair, the woman's having the affair. And then we worked with them, and we worked in speaking, what were they committed to? What are they willing to take responsibility for? And how can we repair the damage, knowing that each person has to get over that initial hurt, but how can we keep things going? And I thought, what a great way to explain the benefits that I could bring from both my investigation background and my coaching background and my therapeutic background. So it was really a great opportunity to get those stories out there.
I love that, because how funny is that, really, when you think about that? You are a coach's coach. You had the experience. You had all the experience necessary that some of these coaches could just kind of salivate into to know what you did. It's a break off of your industry in a sense, to share this information, to be able to actually have the connection that you have, and to be on the street. I mean, you're really there on the street, getting in there and saying, hey, I've been there. I've coached people in their worst times. I did that. I coached people in their worst times. I caught chaos. I got people in their worst time of life. 20 years in security, law enforcement, juvenile institutional officer. I met people. I mean, I lived on the street, folks. I met people, I knew people at their worst times, and I caught them in a chaotic moment. And to be able to swing that pendulum to help them come into some harmonious connection, or just separate, right? Hey, go into your corner, basically, is what we're telling people. You need somebody there physically sometimes just to move them out of that space. And I'm really oversimplifying this, but if you can meet that person in that worst space, how can you bring them to their happy place that they need? Maybe it's just a change of who they're with, who they're building relationships with. And that's the fantastic thing. And that what I put some of that into my journey. It was 2020. Folks, you're going to read this, and anthology's coming out in a few months. I talk about that journey. It hit, my world collapsed. Everything I knew, everything I understood, everything I feared was all happening at the same time. What a Molotov cocktail that was thrown into my life and just lit on fire. It was like somebody put my life in a blender and just left the lid off, right? That's really what happened. But to say that this is how I got to the stage, this is how I can be the person to support you when you're running your stage, to say, hey, I've got this chaos of tech, or I've got this chaos of support, because there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of things that go on that people need help with. There's links that they need in real time, or fixing someone's mute or their Zoom, and walking through that. So understanding that support, and you share that story. We get to share that story. And I actually met people. I was so against it at first, but I actually met the most wonderful people that are sharing their stories in real time with me, in the same book. So what a sense of connection. So let's get to the next question. And Alan, I'm going to have you come up here and answer this question. So every great story has a plot twist, right? It's that dramatic moment of change that got us to the spot where we have to change. We're ready for change. We put ourselves, or the universe put us there as something unexpected. Maybe that you experienced while writing the book, something that you discovered about yourself or the message that you're sharing with the audience. How did that, what is that dramatic plot twist that happened either to you or for you to help people in that transformation that you've really discovered writing that book?
Well, what I basically discovered as I was writing my book was that I can have trust in myself and I can have faith in myself. When I first started on that journey of writing the book, I started feeling overwhelmed and I started feeling, well, like I was questioning, did I make the right choice to want to write a book? Can I really write a book? And I decided, because I took that first step, I was going to take the next step. And I was just going to do my best. And the other part of what I learned is, because I'm a helper, my personality is I tend to have some hesitation in asking for help. And I was lucky enough to be in a group of other people that were also writing their books at the same time. And I realized, as I was writing the book and as I was participating in that group, I don't know everything I need to know. And if I don't ask for help, I'm going to be stuck. So that was the second thing that I learned. So those two things really made a big difference for me, because I carried those learnings forward into the rest of my life.
I love that because it's self-discovery, and it helps us really zero in on the conversation we're having people, or the conversation that we have intention to share with people. Like, oh wow, maybe it's a discovery if you have writing something about business. Maybe it's a discovery on what is your real pain point. I know it helped me really zone in and finite, maybe a higher ticket offer, or something that I could offer people in the journey of my sales. And as weird as that is, I found out as well in that discovery, talking to other people and hosting the Plot Twist Summit, finding out that, hey, this is what authors, I can help authors with, I can assist them with that. This is something that would zone in more on what would bring a solution to their visibility. And how does that work with maybe a book signing? You can hold your workshop and share your book, share a chapter of your book, also share an audio version and a video version of your chapter of you reading it, right? What a way to connect to your audience or members in a group. And you're not just sharing your chapter in a PDF form, but you're sharing it in a video form where they can actually connect to you, your soul, and really into the story, right? Because nobody reads the book like the author does. And you can have commentary on there, right? About the journey, about the what it took. How many years did you hold that in there, right? For me, it was 6 years ago. So how long did you hold that in? All right. So let's see. Let me get on with where did my questions go? So for you, Scott, how did that work for you? What was that whisper like for you to move to that moment to produce the book, and to really that plot twist moment for that great story?
Well, for me, as I said, I knew some of the pieces. So, um, for example, I knew that the photographer who had taken Garbo's pictures when she arrived in New York in 1925, the portraits, Arnold Genthe. He had sort of made up a story about how they got used that I knew was wrong. I didn't know all of it though. So I didn't know that it was three portrait sessions, not one, which is phenomenal because that's not what was usually done. And it sort of puts the second and third sessions in an interesting context because they're so distinctive. And then it hadn't occurred to me that Garbo was underage. So she had come on a letter of intent. And normally, you sign the contract and off to Hollywood you go. Well, she was underage, so the letter of intent wasn't enforceable. So now it's like, well, how does this all fit together? So there were lots of little things like that that just made me realize that it was a really big story, not just a little sort of celebrity buyout, that there was an amazing personal tale, but also this cultural moment, and they fit together. And so I became sort of really excited about the story I had before me, but I needed a lot of help learning to write in a book sense because I'd been a business writer, which is much more boring and dry.
You have to add personality and spark, right? To keep people's attention, to add to the drama and the passion of someone's being, of their life story. Isn't that a little bit of total change in that? It's almost like working in the corporate world and coming in as an entrepreneur, working in the virtual space. You have to be able to kind of change up. You have to be the person that stands out.
So I have a funny story about that. I started a company long ago in the 90s, and I moved it out of my basement into a small office, and I was sitting there, one night before I went home, and I looked over at the trash can and it was full. And I said, why isn't that getting emptied in my mind? And then I realized, oh, I now do that, right? I do everything. That's the small business life. You are everybody.
Isn't that funny how that works? And you're like, wait, oh, it's kind of like oddly enough in the casino, it has an automatic flushing toilet. And then you go home and you're like, oh, I don't have the comforts of the hotel, of a five-star, five-diamond hotel. And I worked in security, and it was just like you have a team of people there that are cleaning up after you, and you could literally eat off the floors. It was so immaculate back in the day, when Win was running it. And then you go home, and you're now it's business online. You can't just go out. I can't go out to the cafeteria and get a snack. There's no chef back there anymore. Which we had. We had it was so awesome. We had the blessing of people actually making a food in real time for you. And it was not like McDonald's. So you can actually something edible, a wonderful salad bar, just a journey about that. But Bruce, what was that like for you? What was that plot twist moment that got you, that you kind of experienced while writing?
Great question. And mine probably started years earlier. That probably it was 1993. The Chicago Tribune was writing a series called Killing Our Children, a little vignette of a child under the age of 15 who met a violent death every single day in Chicago. And I had just done this transformational work. And I was like, I got to do something. And I had done an investigation for a guy who owned the first chain of comic book stores. So I said, I'm going to create a professional quality comic book generated by kids. I'm going to the areas where these kids are exposed to that. And then I got a lot of help. There was a book called Understanding Comics where a guy shows you like how to create the stories and how to do cell by cell by cell. I read everything about creating stories. And so I learned that there's two plot twists, two turns. And so the thing in being an investigator, where you have this opportunity is to talk with these people. I had one guy call me up one morning. He says, I need help. I need you to help me with hiring a hitman. I was like, I don't hire hitman. So the first question is,
That's
what's
good
going
money.
on? What?
That's a money maker.
Yeah. It's like, what's going on? And then he opens up and says, I'm having an affair. I want the affair to stop. I want to go back to my wife and my daughters and da da da. I want things to go back the way they were. I said, do you really think you kill a woman, life's going to go back the way it was? He said, well, what can I do? I said, well, you could take this woman's thunder and tell your wife what you did, you know, and ask for forgiveness. She might forgive you, she might not, but you have these adolescent daughters, and every time somebody comes to date them, you're going to wonder, are you somebody who could have a woman killed?
Mm.
Because you know it's possible because you just did it, you know. He says, what can I? So again, he ended up confessing to his wife. They're still together today. It's a beautiful story. The whole thrust of mine is plan for the worst, hope for the best, act with integrity, and let God do the rest. So be your best self, even if you weren't your best self before. So for me, life is a series of plot twists. And, how do we, and I was fortunate. They had like a professional editor who I would write something, she'd reflect back to me, I would rewrite. So it's almost like in the old days, working with what we have now, AI. So I had a real collaborator, and I think it made it much more interesting. So that was my journey.
It's for me, the plot twist is such the ever changing dramatic scene, right? And that's what happens in life, and the detachment of when we're sitting on our couch, and we're watching a movie, that dramatic change, right? That dramatic plot twist that happens, and it happens in our lives. And I think for me, part of that journey, especially as a consultant or when I was working as a coach, to look at that and say, oh, this is the dramatic trigger part of our life that has gotten us to either feel broken or to lose our money, our family, or whatever. It's that dramatic pause and in life, and we're just like, whoa, this is crazy. What happens, right? I was watching The Love Boat the other day, and of course, it's very simple how it is, but there's a little drama, there's a little plot twist, and everybody goes home, and it's not a happy ending ever after. Sometimes there's the better relationships, people get married. Sometimes they rekindle the love of their life, and sometimes they break up. But they had it on this journey in this boat of what can happen in our life. And if we start to look at it that way, what is the outcome that we want? What is the story that we're sharing? And what's that change? So let's move to that moment of the behind the scenes. And what does that look like? And I think what's the change in that for Bruce? I'm going to bring you back up first for this question, since I've already got you on my screen here. Is what is that behind the scenes that readers, when they see that final masterpiece, right? But they don't see the messy middle, the doubts, the deleted chapter, the late nights. I mean, what was that? Secret Window with Johnny Depp, where you're in the cabin and he's writing, and this whole plot goes into his mind, and he's supposed to have buried somebody in the cornfield, right? It kind of feels that way when you're writing. You just totally dig into something else when you're in that moment, and you find your muse, and you're digging into the writing, and it's just like, who am I kidding? Right? Why am I writing this? That means that it's dull. That means it doesn't have the drama. For you, what was it that almost didn't make it into the book, that finally you clicked, like the scientist, when you walk away from the experience, to say, I can come back and I can be grateful that it's in this chapter and it really happened? And what was that struggle like to get to the outcome of the book?
For me, it was kind of quirky. In other words, talking about these two vignettes, these things, help me hire a hitman, and the other one who says, my wife is having an affair and I need a surveillance. Those were easier. I've written poetry for a number of years. I haven't published any of it, and I've always been afraid of promoting my poetry. And I asked the editor, would it be okay? Because the book is called Voices of Hope, and one of my poems is a bit of a romantic poem. But she said, yeah, it's appropriate for here in the book. There are people who've given up on love. It's like I've gotten too old, or it was never for me. And so I had written a poem in collaboration with my Cecilia, and it's called You Think of Me as I Do You. And it was written when she was in Colombia for a number of months. And, I wanted to make sure she didn't meet a handsome Colombiano who likes to dance and speaks Spanish, because I don't do either of those. And so she asked the question, do you think of me as I do you? And it came out to be really a wonderful poem. And I said at the end, and for those of you who might have given up, I want you to know there is hope out there, and here is for you. And for me, that was the ta-da, of my chapter.
I love that. I love that. Alan, let me bring you up, sir. For you, what was that kind of struggle behind the scenes with those late night moments and that like self-doubt moment of what you want to have as a realized outcome?
Well, actually, one of the biggest struggles for me came towards the very end of my writing the book. My thought was, out of ignorance, you just write a book. And I didn't realize there was so much more to do after you write the book. It's getting it edited, it's getting it published, putting it somewhere where you can sell it. And again, I had that doubt starting to creep up into my mind. Like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I'm not really strong with technology. And then I thought, wait a minute, remember? Ask for help.
Yep.
You don't have to know all the answers. And then what also occurred to me, which also was a source of inspiration for me, was I thought, you know what? This book that I just wrote, the people that I want to help, they have self-doubt too. I learned how to get past my self-doubt. That's something else that I can bring to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Yes. What can you bring to your readers, and realizing that if you don't write the book, you're never going to get the outcome. You're never going to get the change. You're never going to get more than 2 minutes in a networking group to talk about your book. That's why you come on podcasts and stages. So Scott, for you, what was that like? Like, there had to be so much information that you wanted to share with everybody, and you're going to condense it into a book. What was that moment for you, that behind the scenes, to finish the masterpiece?
Well, when I realized I was really writing a women's history book, um, and that and that's what's fascinating is this whole part of Garbo's life was lost in the socially conservative, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and that um, I was going to have to tell that story, and I didn't really have a huge background in women's history. I did a whole lot of reading. Um, but it was sort of I feeling quite frankly out of my depth in that area. I mean, I thought I knew enough about, the other elements of photography and Hollywood and stuff like that. But it's like, no, this is about women. Um, and that was kind of a daunting thing to have to take on. But it's where the story went.
I love that, and I'm going to say, as the woman in the room here, is that what I love about what you did is you get to detach, right? Your Monday morning armchair quarterbacking the story, in a sense, not only with your intimacy of knowing her and the connection and the relationship that you have built, and the knowledge that you have, but you get to share from someone else's perspective, and you bring fresh eyes, right? And it's not mansplaining. You're just telling a wonderful story of a great person, and just the gorgeous in vogue pictures, the drama that she just shares with just in her photographs, right? And being on the screen, just the still shots of just her for a pause for the dramatic scene of what she had in her soul, and you're able to share that and bear that, to people, to say, hey, I have the inside scoop. I'm spilling the tea, in a sense, right? And you're sharing what other people don't know that happened behind the curtain for the change, and it's fresh to do that than to just rinse and repeat the social norms of what we say are taglines. So I love that. But so I'm going to bring you up here, Alan, and we're going to get to this last part, and I want to have save time. So gentlemen, you can talk more about your book. For me, it's what's that strange kind of magic that you want people to take away from reading your book? And if those words can come out jump out of the page, what should people really look for? It's nice to sometimes have some context, like maybe it's the movie trailer for your book, to have a little bit of context of what really to look for. I think it not necessarily the plot twist ending at the book, but what would you like the readers to connect? How would you like them to connect to your book, and what would you like them to take away from your book, Alan?
Well, what I would like them to connect to the book is there's a way to manage recovery that can have the best possible outcome, which obviously is to stay in recovery and to manage the challenges along the way. And what I've intended for people to actually take from the book itself is, instead of just kind of general advice of, come on, you can do it, don't let that bother you, I provide specific strategies on how people can manage any of the life areas that were affected when they were active in their addiction, and how they could manage them in a step by step, very simple to understand way, so that when they ever get to the point where maybe they have questions or self-doubt, all they have to do is go to the part of the book that matches that self-doubt they're having, and they can get that encouragement, which I'm hoping that the message that they do see, actually two messages, is you can do it and don't ever give up.
I love that. What a great takeaway. And so people can see that and read that and connect with you in there. And I'm putting all your giveaways, gentlemen, in here. And you have a giveaway, Alan. I have it here, building self-belief when recovering from addiction. Can you talk a little bit more about your giveaway as well? You're on mute, sir.
Thank you for pointing that out. Basically, that giveaway actually has even more tips and things that people can do to help them to have the most positive attitude possible while they're in their recovery. If maybe they're at a point where they're just determining whether they want to enter recovery, and to provide inspiration and motivation, like, in a certain sense, I have your back. This is going to be a help also.
I love that. Just more encouragement for the change. And we'll talk later. I did talk, and just so you know, I don't think we had a chance to talk about it, Alan, on our conversation. There was so much more to talk about to get to know you. But it is part of my journey in the anthology, what I wrote about my daughter. She passed, drug addicted. And in that journey, that all hit in 2020 with everything else. And that just pushed that further fueled that pain and that dramatic moment, to say, hey, I've really got to look at my life on what this is, and for her not to live in vain, of course, and to speak about it and to write about it, because otherwise it just stays here and I didn't share my story. So for me, that was that takeaway. So Bruce, if you'll come up here and share for people, what would you like them to take away from your book?
I would actually love to read my poem, because I want people to know that there's always life after. No matter what life hands you, there's something better on the other side. Just be patient. Do I have time?
Yeah, if you got a 1 minute read, absolutely.
Okay, I'll cut to half the. Let's see. The dark provides a shelter rare, where one is free and all is dared. And when you find you're fast asleep, you cannot see, no more perceive, that I have come to where you lie, to do my best to keep you safe throughout each black and eerie night. In reverie, I walk beside protective angels sent to earth so long ago from one above, so we would never have to fear the dark, the void, the emptiness. Of life alone, no mortal near. Where'er you walk, you're ne'er alone. My lovely one, where'er you walk, all gladness reigns, affirmed by angels' songs of praise. For a woman of gracious nature, exquisite frame, your gifts divine to which I now lay claim, for both my own delight and all creation's gain. Awake, my love, arise, explore. New worlds, new morns request your form. O woman, you're alive, and suddenly with your approach, the rest, the best of life's transform. Do you think of me as I do you? Someday you'll speak, I'll hear your truth. But until then, my gentle one, go in peace. Know all is good. And that's what I'd like people to know. Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, you should have dressed up like a Shakespeare character. I see that. And when you read it here, that proof is in the pudding live on the show, folks. If you listen to somebody's audio and somebody's reading it to you that wrote it, they know how to share the love and where to share the tone and the style and the change, the inflection of the voice, right? And the passion of that, right? So Bruce, for you, I have your giveaway here, and you have the complete man assessment that goes along with the workshop you're doing. So I'm going to give you some time to talk about your workshop that we're doing tomorrow, right? I'm going to be
Yes.
the Oz in the background, pulling the switches and the toggles and pressing the buttons. So tell people a little bit about your workshop.
Okay, and I give all acknowledgement to Nicole, because without her, I would not have been able to do any of this technology. So in my work as a private detective, and frankly, my first wife walked out and we didn't fight. She just said we'd grown apart, and it was news to me. So there's a phenomenon today. It's called gray divorce. It's divorces over the age of 45. 2/3 of those are generated by the wife. And to a certain amount of men, that's as surprising it was to me. So my goal is to get men to begin to interact with their wives and their children. I have people where the children won't talk to the guy anymore. Like, it's the presence. We're always taught that we got to go succeed, we got to go make a living and stuff like that. But sometimes the cost of making a living keeps us away from the people we love. So my goal with our practice now is called the Complete Man Brotherhood. It's like, be a complete man. You're a great provider. How can you be the same leader at home that people know you for in the workplace? And that's the thrust of my work.
I love that. We're changing relationships, right? And women's groups, I do hear about that all the time. And relationship building, and we want balance and we want harmony. But to see it happen on the side, and I'm so glad to be able to be part of this journey, because I want to see that change in the success in the relationship. So this is called Success Without Sacrifice. The link is on YouTube. It's in LinkedIn. I also put Bruce's LinkedIn in there and the link to join this. It is tomorrow. We are also looking for people, yes, women too, for this launch, because we would love some support in some feedback from how the not just the presentation but the connection. So we're looking for connection, and we're looking for one-on-one. Of course, it's mainly tailored to male leaders, and you work hard and you provide. So let's solve that for the other side so we can bring that balance back. Because we know in 2020, the shame and the sacrifice on having to be at home, I learned that the hard way on a 13-year relationship. We had to be home together. We worked together for years. We worked out together, but now stuck at home. Woo! That is a sacrifice. So gentlemen, also, if you would, I've shared your links, and Scott, I want to bring you up right now. If you have the link to get your book, and I know, Scott, you have, you're giving away the ebook for Greta Garbo. Is that found on your website?
It's the book is on the website. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put that in there. I'm going to make sure that I'm sharing the correct link. But yes, what would you like the audience to take away when they go to read your book and they go to read that wonderful book about Greta Garbo and the movement and the change that she made, and the change that still here today. It's transforming women's lives, people's lives, and it's obviously transformed your life, the third generation and the next generation down. What is a takeaway you want for people to get when they read that ebook?
Well, I think first, her early life is just an amazing story. She's a working class girl, growing up in Stockholm. She wants to be an actor. And, at 19, she signs a star contract with MGM. And by 21, she's basically the best actor in the world, and everybody knows it. Uh, then there's this period as a star where she just has this incredible impact on culture, and you can see it. I found ways to show the engagement that she had with her fans, uh, the money that she was generating, not just for MGM, the studio, but for Lowe's that owned all the theaters uh, that were incredibly profitable, especially these, you know, first run theaters. And then the final piece is about censorship. Many people may know she made her last film in 1941, but she kept working on projects that didn't happen. And censorship was not the only reason they didn't happen, but it's the main reason that they didn't happen. Her last project that I found in 1955, when the producer went to the Catholic Church to get an okay on the script, a story that had been a popular play that the Catholic Church loved, in 1920, it was not approvable,
Mm.
as was. So there's this censorship story that really sort of derailed her career. But the things she did against censorship while she was still working are fascinating. So it's just this interesting life. And, many of the issues that she dealt with, women deal with today. So I think it's truly relevant.
And I think that would help, when people have that, if they've had that issue, they can look and go, okay, here's how we are as a society. And some changes can be changed, but sometimes it's great to look at someone in the history to say, how did they resolve it? Because you can detach from it. You're not stuck in, oh, this is happening now, right? We still have to solve for the problem of eating breakfast. What are we having for breakfast? Did we have enough coffee? That can be a small problem, but people did that years ago. So when we look at, okay, they just had the coffee ready, right? The day before, right? So you watch I Love Lucy. She's got everything ready to go. She gets up in the morning, she does fix it for her husband. But in the modern day, did you set yourself up for success? So maybe that was that problem too, but how do we solve it? So not that we're still living in those trenches and to bring the pain, but how about simple solutions, and looking at it from someone else's eyes helps us detach from that. I love that. And then we have that up here. I have everybody's links in here coming up, and they are in the chat. You can find out more information on these gentlemen. And we got what a wonderful conversation. And I'm so glad that you guys joined me today. And of course, folks, I put my information in there. I love to hear from you, love to have you as a guest. And there are spots for sponsorships on the Plot Twist speaker panel and also on the Pain Point podcast. So if you'd like your 30-second commercial and you just want to stand out and shine, and you can put that on Reels. It goes on TikTok. You can put it on your LinkedIn. People can get to know more about you and connect with you, your book, your business. And what a great way to get out there. Reach out to me. And also a great way is to be the brand of your business or to talk about your book is to get on a podcast, be a guest, get on the stage, host your own workshop, let people find you. You wrote the book, create a workshop. You wrote the book, talk about it. So reach out to me. I love to share with you. It's all about marketing and building you. You are the brand. You're the face of your brand. You're the face. You're the cover of the book. You should be. All right, folks. This is Nicole. I'm signing off. Love to have you. Great conversation today. Love this gentleman and always good convo.